sweet, beautiful, lovely, the dripping blood, and what's this? Oh, a liver.
Of all the remasters and remakes that have swamped this generation, really, I've got to say Onimusha is up there with the ones I really wanted to see. Onimusha, as a series, is, well, baffling in its absence. For the past, I guess 2 generations now. I don't think we got any Onimusha on the PS3 or the Xbox 360 or any of that. It was very much a PlayStation 2 series, but the blending of survival horror presentation with a more action-oriented approach is something that I think could have done really well in modern times. It just never did. Onimusha, though, this original, is from 2001. Can you believe it? Does not feel that old, but it certainly is. It is a game I absolutely loved. I have loved every Onimusha game. Onimusha 2 was my personal highlight because it had Gogan Dantis in it, but 1 and 3 had Guildenstern in it. That's the person who, for those uninitiated, would have seen at the beginning of the video going, "Ooh, a liver!" So that's always fun. The game has a lot of fun villainous characters that only get more ludicrous as the series goes on. But you want to know whether Onimusha is still, Onimusha Warlords, to give it its full name even, is worth playing in this day and age. And yes it is. I'm actually surprised, because this isn't one of the most in-depth remasters out there. They basically just visually touched it up, but left most of the gameplay, pretty much all of the gameplay, as is. At least as far as I can remember. I played these games in the early 2000s. I didn't track a copy down to test it in the modern day, but it is pretty much as I remember, and it's still really good. It's held up incredibly well for a game that is, almost 20 years old. I will say, and you actually just saw it there, the controls struggle a little in the modern time because they've got those fixed camera angles. As I say, sort of survival horror at the time aesthetic.
Oh, a liver!
But the controls aren't really great for it, at least on the Switch. I'm playing the version on the Switch here, and for this footage I was using the Joy-Cons, which just aren't all that good. The stick on the Joy-Con is very easy to press inward, and the map button is pressing in the movement stick. So you saw in that combat what happened there. Using the Pro Controller, not so much an issue. The game is on the other consoles, the other systems as well, so it's only really a thing to watch out for Switch players. But, it's great. It's still a great bloody game. The combat is still really fun. Again, because the controls are still a bit dated, it takes a little getting used to, especially in a world where D-pad movement controls aren't really the done thing for 3D games. So it can confuse if you're using the stick to move around. The camera can get confused, which can make combat harder to do. But for the most part, it's a fairly forgiving game. When you kill enemies, their souls come out of them and float about the place, and you press a button to suck those in, and you often get health orbs among that when you need it. So you're never feeling too much like you're running out of health. This is certainly not a Dark Souls or anything like that. In fact, some might consider it fairly easy these days. Maybe a bit too much for them, but I still find it really satisfying to play, especially that soul-sucking. It's such a simple thing. Holding down a button to pick the stuff up. Other games, especially these days, will just have the pickups automatically go to you, which is good. Convenience is great, but there's just something nice about drawing everything towards you in a really quick way. It's not like a lengthy looting animation or anything like that. It's quick and it's easy, and it just feels cool to gather all your rewards suddenly like that.
Oh, a liver!
So the combat's really good. You got 3 weapons over the course of the game, which you can upgrade. This was when RPG elements were not the done thing. They were not super common back then. Nowadays, almost every action game has a progression system, but back in 2001, in the early 2000s, it wasn't as common. It was just starting to get quite popular. And it's quite funny how normal it is today, where back then, you know, it stood out a little more. But there is all that. It's very simple again. You get 3 weapons and 3 orbs that open doors, and you just upgrade those over the course of the game. That's about it. There are some bits of gear you can pick up, like, you know, different armor. If I recall correctly, I haven't beaten the very last bit of this yet, but I do remember playing this and then replaying it with Samanusuke, the main character, wearing a panda suit. I remember the panda suit. What else is there? There are some things from the old days that I could have done without in this game. Some of the environmental puzzles. You know, I reached a sliding block puzzle, or rather a sliding tile puzzle, you know, where you got to move the tiles to rearrange them and create a picture. And they were very en vogue back then, in sort of the early to mid-2000s, and I don't miss them. I mean, they still pop up now and then, but more or less as a dated throwback. And they're not for me. They were never all that good. They're just a lazy sort of plug-in for a better puzzle. If you can't think of anything, I probably shouldn't say lazy, but it's unimaginative. If you can't think of anything, sliding tile puzzle, why not? So some of that, you know, some of the puzzles are a little uninspired and by these days quite old-fashioned. The voice acting and the cutscene, well, the cutscenes visually are very grainy and very old now. They've not done anything to change that. The voice acting will be an acquired taste. Interestingly enough, they've re-recorded some of the voices. I don't know, maybe to get out of paying royalties, that's usually the bloody reason. Although the original voice actor for Samanusuke returns, and Guildenstern still goes, "And what's this? Ooh, a liver!" I don't know if I've communicated that enough to you yet, that Guildenstern, the big squiggly slug-headed devil demon, right, says, "What's this, ooh, a liver?" and it's still really good. That's the most important takeaway from this video. Ooh, a liver. But the voice acting is campy and silly and a little bit stupid, but that's what I like about it. I miss when games had silly, stupid voice acting. These days, a lot of the voice acting has been improved, but that's kind of made a lot of it just dull. They're just good, decent actors doing acting. Certain games benefit from B-movie quality voice acting, and there's a lot of that going on with this, which I like. I like this game. I love this game. I'm really happy to see it back. And I get that a lot of people think I moan and complain about games too much, and when I do praise something, it is either a small indie game or a remake of a really old one, but you know, it is what it is. I'm happy to be happy with a game regardless, and having another crack of the whip with Onimusha couldn't be happier. What a great bloody game. What else could be said about it? If you haven't played it before, I think it's aged sufficiently to where you could play it and have a really good time with it. I feel, anyway. If you have played it before and you liked it, I think it's a no-brainer. It's well worth playing again. With, you know, better visuals, sort of. Not, you know, it's not like the Resident Evil 2 remake. Clearly, you can see it visually. But it's still bloody good. And I highly recommend it, and I really hope this is the start of more Onimusha. I would so gladly take a remake of Onimusha 2. But a brand new Onimusha would be even better. So yeah, big year for Capcom. Onimusha, Resident Evil 2 remakes, DMC 5, which I believe is out this year, which I trust will be very good. I hope it is. And that's that. Onimusha Warlords. I like it a lot, and I think many of you would like it too.
Oh,